She woke up before the sun, as she always did. The small mud house was still dark, and the air was cold. A thin blanket covered her, old and torn at the edges, but she gently folded it and placed it aside. There was no alarm clock in the house. Her body had learned the time through years of struggle. Outside, the village was quiet. Roosters had not yet begun their call. She stepped out barefoot, the ground cooled beneath her feet. The sky was slowly turning from black to a soft gray. Another day had begun, and like every other day, it promised nothing easy. Her life had never been simple. She lived alone now, though she had not always been alone. Once the house had laughter. Once there had been voices that filled the walls. Those voices were gone. Time had taken them away, one by one, leaving behind silence and responsibility far heavier than her age. She washed her face at the hand pump, the cold water shocking her awake. There was work to do. If she did not work, she did not eat. That rule was as firm as the dry earth under her feet. Most days. She worked in nearby fields, helping farmers harvest crops, clean land, or carry loads under the sun. Some days, she cleaned houses in the richer part of the nearby town. The work was hard, the pay small, but she never complained. Complaining did not fill an empty stomach. That morning, she wrapped a simple cloth around her shoulders and began walking toward the fields. The road was long and dusty, stretching far beyond what the eye could see. She had walked this road so many times that her feet knew every stone. Every bend, people in the village knew her as quiet and polite. She did not talk much, but when she did, her words were gentle. She had learned early that kindness cost nothing, even when you had nothing to give. By midday, the sun was high. Her hands were rough from work, her back aching. Still, she continued. She stopped only when the farmer told her the day's work was done and placed a few notes in her hand. She looked at the money for a moment, calculating what it could buy. Some flour. Maybe vegetables, if prices were low. She tied the money carefully in the corner of her cloth and began the long walk back. The sun was slowly lowering now, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. The road grew quieter. Most people had already returned home. She walked alone. She often did. The road passed through open land before reaching the village. Tall grass lined both sides, moving softly in the evening breeze. Birds flew low, returning to their nests. Everything felt calm, almost too calm. She was thinking about dinner when something unusual caught her eye at first. She thought it was a fallen sack or a bundle of clothes lying ahead on the road. She continued walking, but as she got closer, her steps slowed. The shape was wrong. To still, her heart began to beat faster. It was a man. He was lying on the road. His body stretched awkwardly, one arm bent beneath him. His eyes were closed. Dust covered his clothes. He did not move. She stopped a few steps away. Fear rushed through her. People warned girls like her never to stop for strangers, especially men. The world was not kind, and danger often wore ordinary faces. Her first instinct was to turn around and leave, but something held her there. She looked around. The road was empty. No houses nearby, no voices. Just her, the road, and the silent man. She took a cautious step forward. "Can you hear me?" she asked softly. No response. She swallowed hard and stepped closer. His face looked pale. His breathing was shallow, barely noticeable. Panic crept into her chest. She noticed his leg. There was swelling near his ankle, 2 small marks, dark against his skin. Her breath caught. She had seen marks like that before. A snake bite. Her hands began to tremble. Snake bites were common in the area, especially near fields and tall grass. Everyone knew how dangerous they were. Some people did not survive, even if help came quickly. She knew one thing clearly. If she walked away, this man would likely die. She stood there, torn between fear and responsibility. She had no phone, no transport, no medical training, just her hands and whatever knowledge she had picked up over the years from elders in the village. She looked at the road behind her, then at the man again. Slowly, she knelt beside him. Her heart pounded so loudly she thought it might burst. She pressed her ear close to his mouth, listening. He was alive. Barely she remembered something an old woman once said. If poison spreads, time is everything. She tore a strip from the edge of her cloth, her fingers moving quickly, despite the fear. With care, she tied it tightly above the bite, hoping it would slow the poison. She did not know if she was doing it right, but she knew doing nothing was not an option. She tried to lift his head slightly, calling out again. Still no response. Tears welled in her eyes, not from sadness, but from the weight of the moment. She had never been responsible for another person's life before. Her own life had always felt heavy enough. She stood up and looked down the road, hoping to see someone, anyone. Minutes passed. The light began to fade. Just as doubt began to creep in, she heard the distant sound of an engine. Relief flooded her chest. She waved her arms wildly as a small vehicle approached. The driver slowed, surprised to see a girl standing alone, frantic on an empty road. She explained quickly, her voice shaking. The driver looked at the man, understood the seriousness, and nodded without hesitation. Together, they managed to lift him into the vehicle. She climbed in as well, holding the man's leg, praying silently the whole way. The ride felt endless. Every bump made her flinch. She watched his face closely, afraid that at any moment his breathing might stop. When they reached the hospital, staff rushed forward. Doctors took over, asking questions she could barely answer. She stepped back, her hands covered in dust and sweat. She stood there for a moment, watching as they wheeled him away. Then she turned and left. She did not wait to know his name. She did not wait to hear if he would live or die. She did not wait for thanks. The sky was dark by the time she walked back toward her village. Her legs felt heavy, her body exhausted. But her heart was strangely calm. She had done what she could. That night, she ate a simple meal and lay down on the floor of her house. Sleep did not come easily. The man's face kept appearing in her mind. She wondered if he was alive. She wondered if anyone would miss him if he was not. Outside, the night stretched on, quiet and unaware that somewhere, in a hospital room, a life hung between breath and silence, and she had no idea that the man she saved was not just a stranger on the road. She had no idea that her simple act of kindness had just crossed paths with a world far beyond her own. The hospital lights were bright and harsh, very different from the soft glow of the village sunset she had left behind. She stood near the entrance for a moment, unsure of what to do next. People rushed past her. Doctors spoke quickly, and machines made sounds she did not understand. She felt small there, like she did not belong. No one asked her to stay. No one asked her to leave, so she walked away. Outside, the night air felt heavy. The road back to her village was darker now, quieter. Each step felt slower than before. Her body was tired, but her mind refused to rest. Images of the man lying on the road kept returning again and again. She replayed every moment in her head, questioning herself. Had she tied the cloth too tightly? Had she wasted time calling for help? Had she done enough? By the time she reached her home, the stars were high in the sky. She locked the door from inside and sat down on the floor. Her hands were still shaking slightly. She rubbed them together, trying to calm herself. She ate little that night. Hunger was there, but worry was stronger. When she finally lay down, sleep came in broken pieces. Each time she closed her eyes, she saw the man's face, pale and still, far away in the same night. Her doctors worked quickly. The man was rushed into an emergency room. His condition was critical. The poison had spread far, and time was already against him. Nurses moved fast, placing tubes, checking his breathing, monitoring his heart. Doctors spoke in short, urgent sentences. They asked how long it had been since the bite. No one knew the exact answer. One thing, however, surprised them. The cloth tied around his leg had slowed the spread of poison. It was not perfect, but it had bought him precious time. Without it, the situation would have been far worse. Hours passed. Machines beeped softly in the quiet room. Outside, security guards stood silently, Though no one in the hospital yet knew why, calls were made. More doctors arrived. The best care available was brought in without delay. Just before dawn, the man's condition finally began to stabilize. He did not wake up, but he was alive. Back in the village, morning came as it always did. She woke before sunrise again, her body sore from the long day before. For a moment, she forgot everything. Then memory rushed back, heavy and sudden. She sat up slowly, pressing her hand against her chest. She whispered a short prayer, not asking for anything for herself, only hoping that the stranger would live. Life did not pause for her worry. She still had to work. She still needed food. The world did not change just because she had saved someone. She went about her day quietly. In the fields, she worked as usual. People spoke around her, laughed, complained, argued. She listened, but said little. Her mind was elsewhere. At times, fear crept in. What if she had made a mistake? What if she had broken some rule by touching a stranger? What if trouble followed her back to the village? But nothing happened. Days passed. The man remained in the hospital. He was moved to a private room. His condition slowly improved. When he finally opened his eyes, confusion filled his face. White walls, soft lights, machines, a quiet room guarded by men in dark clothing. He tried to speak, but his throat was dry. A nurse noticed and came quickly. "You're safe," she said gently. "You're in a hospital." His memory was unclear. He remembered walking. He remembered pain. Then darkness. Later, a doctor explained everything. The snake bite. The narrow escape. The timing. And most importantly, the unknown girl. If she hadn't acted when she did, the doctor said honestly, you wouldn't be here. Those words stayed with him. He lay there quietly after the doctor left, staring at the ceiling. He had faced danger before. His life had always been fast, full of meetings, travel, decisions that affected thousands. He was used to control, used to power, but this time, his life had rested in the hands of someone who had nothing. He wanted to know who she was. Orders were given quietly. People were asked. Security teams reviewed nearby areas. But information was limited. No one had her name. No one knew where she came from. Only a rough description and the location of the road. Meanwhile, she continued her life, unaware of what was unfolding far away. One evening, as she walked home, some children ran past her, laughing. A neighbor greeted her and asked about work. Everything felt normal again. Almost, yet inside, something had changed. She found herself thinking more deeply about life, about how close death could be, about how fragile people were, no matter who they were or where they came from. She wondered about the man. She imagined him waking up. She imagined him returning to his family, whoever they were. She hoped someone was waiting for him. She never imagined that he lived a life completely different from hers. In the hospital, visitors began to arrive. Important-looking people. Quiet conversations. Respectful tones. Everything about the man's presence suggested influence and wealth. Still, none of that mattered to him as much as one simple question. Who was the girl? Days later, he was strong enough to sit up. Sunlight came through the window. The world outside moved on, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. But inside him, something felt different. He had always believed success was built through intelligence, effort, and power. Kindness had never been part of his calculations. Now kindness had saved him. He asked his team to find her again, not to reward her publicly, not to create attention. He wanted to see her. To understand her, the search widened. Back in the village, rumors began to spread, though no one connected them to her. People spoke of officials asking questions on nearby roads. Vehicles unfamiliar to the area passed through once or twice. She noticed them, but did not think much of it. One afternoon, she sat outside her house, mending a tear in her dress. The sky was clear. The air was calm. For the first time in days, her mind felt lighter. She had done what she believed was right. Whatever happened after was not in her hands. That night, as she lay down to sleep, she felt a quiet sense of peace. She did not know that the path she had crossed on that dusty road was slowly leading back toward her. She did not know that the man she saved was now walking again, breathing again, and searching for the girl who changed his fate. And she did not know that her simple life was about to be seen by someone who lived in a world she had never imagined. The days that followed felt ordinary on the surface, but something unseen was slowly moving beneath them. Life in the village continued the same way it always had. People woke up early, worked under the sun, argued over small things, laughed at simple jokes, and slept tired at night. Nothing looked different. Yet for her, the world felt quieter, as if she was waiting for something she could not name. She kept working. Every morning she walked the same road, past the same trees, and felt the same dust beneath her feet. Sometimes she glanced at the spot where she had found the man. The road looked empty and harmless now, like nothing had ever happened there. No sign remained. No blood, no marks. Just dirt and silence. She wondered if she would ever walk that road without thinking of him. At times, fear tried to return. What if saving him brought trouble? What if people asked questions she could not answer? But days passed, and nothing happened. Slowly, she convinced herself that the moment had passed, that the man had either survived or not, that her role in his life was already over. She did not know how wrong she was. Far away, the man's recovery continued. Strength returned to his body, but his mind was restless. He had survived many difficult situations in life, but this was different. This time, he had been completely helpless. No money, no influence, no control. Just a body lying on the ground, waiting, and someone had chosen to stop. He replayed the doctor's words again and again. If she hadn't acted when she did, you wouldn't be here. That sentence echoed in his head louder than any business deal or financial risk he had ever taken. He asked questions carefully. Not loudly, not impatiently. He wanted facts, not assumptions. He wanted to know who she was, where she came from, and why she helped him. His team searched nearby villages. They spoke to drivers, farmers, shopkeepers. Some remembered seeing a girl on the road that evening. Some remembered a vehicle stopping. Slowly, small pieces of information came together. The picture that formed surprised him. She was poor. Very poor. She lived alone. She worked daily just to eat. There was no reason for her to stop that day. No reward waiting. No benefit promised. Yet she had stopped. When he heard this, something shifted inside him. He felt a strange mix of gratitude and shame. Gratitude for being alive. Shame for a life lived without noticing people like her. He decided something important then. When he met her, he would not arrive with noise or power. No cameras. No attention. No announcements. He wanted a human meeting, not a public moment. Back in the village, a small change began to happen. One afternoon, she noticed a vehicle parked near the main road. It was clean and modern, unlike anything usually seen there. Two men stood nearby, speaking quietly. They looked out of place. She felt a small tightening in her chest. She kept walking. Later that evening, a neighbor mentioned that some people had been asking questions about a snakebite incident. The words made her pause. She said nothing. That night, sleep avoided her. Thoughts raced through her mind. She told herself not to panic. She had done nothing wrong. She had helped someone. That was all. Still, uncertainty has a way of keeping people awake. The next day, as she returned from work, she saw the same vehicle again, closer to her house this time. Her steps slowed. Her heart beat faster. One of the men noticed her and nodded politely. He did not approach. She passed them and went inside her house. She closed the door gently and sat on the floor, her back against the wall. Her hands were cold. Moments later, there was a soft knock. She froze. The knock came again. Calm and respectful. She took a deep breath and opened the door slightly. One of the men stood there. He spoke kindly, not demanding, not sharp. He explained that they were looking for the girl who had helped a man after a snake bite. He said they wanted to thank her. She listened quietly. When she confirmed it was her, the man's expression softened. He told her someone wanted to meet her, someone important to the man she had saved. She felt her throat tighten. She asked if the man was alive. Yes. Because of you. Those words hit her harder than she expected. Her eyes filled with tears she had been holding back for days. She looked down, embarrassed by her emotions, and nodded. They asked if she would be willing to meet him. She hesitated. Fear, doubt, and curiosity mixed inside her. She had never been asked something like this before. She had never stepped into a world beyond her village. But something told her that this moment was connected to the choice she had made on that road. She agreed. The journey felt unreal. The vehicle moved smoothly along the road. She watched the landscape change through the window. Fields turned into buildings. Dirt roads turned into paved streets. Everything felt larger, faster, louder. She kept her hands folded in her lap, her mind full of questions. When they arrived, she was overwhelmed. The building was tall, clean, and quiet. Security stood at the entrance. People moved with purpose. She felt out of place in her simple clothes. Her worn shoes, they guided her inside and asked her to wait. Her heart pounded. After a few minutes, the door opened. The man walked in slowly. He looked different from how she remembered him. Cleaner, stronger, standing tall. But when their eyes met, something familiar passed between them. Recognition. Connection. She stood up quickly. Unsure of what to do, he raised his hand gently, asking her to relax. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he did. He thanked her, not with big words, not with dramatic gestures, just honest gratitude. He told her that she had saved his life. He told her that without her, he would not be standing there. She listened quietly. Her eyes lowered. She said she only did what anyone should do. He smiled softly at that. They spoke for a while. He asked about her life, her work, her struggles. She answered simply, without complaint. She did not try to impress him. She did not ask for anything. That surprised him even more. Before she left, he told her something important. He said that kindness like hers should not go unnoticed. He said he wanted to help her, but only in a way that respected her dignity. She did not fully understand what he meant. She thanked him and left. As the vehicle took her back to her village, she stared out the window, her thoughts heavy. She felt like she had stepped into a dream and was now waking up. Back home, she sat quietly as the sun set. The village looked the same. Her house looked the same. But she felt different. She had crossed paths with a life. It's far bigger than her own, and she sensed that this was only the beginning. The night after the meeting felt longer than usual. She lay awake on the floor of her small house, staring at the dark ceiling. The room was silent, except for the sound of insects outside. Her mind replayed every moment of the day, again and again. The clean building. The calm voice. The way the man had looked at her, not from above, not with pity, but with respect. She had never been looked at that way before. In her world, people noticed her only for work, for carrying loads, for cleaning, for helping. No one ever asked about her thoughts, her feelings, or her past. That day, someone had listened. Still, she did not fully understand who he really was. She only knew one thing. He was not an ordinary man. Morning came, and life pushed her forward again. She woke early, cooked a simple meal, and prepared for work. As she stepped outside, the village greeted her like always. The same narrow paths, the same familiar faces. Nothing had changed, yet everything had, as she walked toward the fields. She noticed people watching her more closely than before. Whispers followed her steps. Someone had seen the vehicle drop her off the day before. In a place like this, nothing stayed hidden for long. She kept her head down and continued walking. By midday, the sun burned bright. She worked silently, her thoughts far away. She wondered what would happen next. Would the man forget her now that he had thanked her? Would life return to normal? Deep down, She almost hoped it would far away, in a very different world. The man sat in a quiet room, looking out through large glass windows. Below him, a city moved fast. Cars, people, noise. A life built on speed and power. He had returned to his routine, but it no longer felt the same. Meetings continued. Decisions were made. Money moved. But his mind kept drifting back to the village girl. Her calm voice, her simple words, the way she spoke of her life without anger or complaint. He reviewed reports about her life. Each page made him more uncomfortable. The level of hardship, the loneliness, the daily struggle just to survive. He realized something difficult to accept. He had spent years building wealth, yet had done very little to notice people like her. People who carried the real weight of the world without recognition. He called his team and gave clear instructions. What he wanted was not charity, not a quick gift, not a moment of praise. He wanted change that lasted, but he also wanted to be careful. He knew pride was a fragile thing, and dignity, once broken, could never be repaired with money. Back in the village, news finally reached her in a way she could not ignore. A neighbor came running to her house, breathless with excitement. She spoke quickly, barely able to contain herself. She said the man she had helped was not just rich, but extremely powerful. One of the wealthiest people in the country, a man whose name was known in big cities and business circles. She felt the ground shift beneath her feet. The words did not feel real. She sat down slowly, trying to understand. The man she had tied cloth around on a dusty road. The man she had held steady in a shaking vehicle. That man lived in a world of power and wealth she had never seen. Her first feeling was disbelief. Her second was fear. She worried she had done something wrong. She worried people would expect things from her now. She worried her simple life would be disturbed. But most of all, she felt small. That night, she stood outside her house, looking at the stars. She felt the distance between her world and his more clearly than ever. She wondered why fate had crossed their paths at all. She had only wanted to help. The next few days brought more change. Another visit came quieter than before. This time, the men did not ask questions. They brought information. They explained that arrangements were being made for her future. Education opportunities, medical support, a safe place to live if she ever needed it. They spoke gently, never forcing, never demanding. She listened, was overwhelmed. She asked one question. Why? The answer was simple. Because she had saved a life without expecting anything. When the man asked to meet her again, she agreed, though her heart was heavy with nervousness. This time, the meeting felt different. She was more aware now. Aware of the distance between them. Aware of the difference in power. But the man remained the same, calm, respectful, present. He told her about his life, something he rarely did with anyone. About growing up with ambition. About chasing success. About believing that strength meant standing alone. He admitted that lying helpless on that road changed him. She listened quietly. Then she spoke. She told him she had not saved him because of who he was. She told him she would have done the same for anyone. She said life was already hard enough, and ignoring someone in pain only made it worse. Her words were simple, but they hit him deeply. He realized then that this meeting was not about repayment. It was about learning. Before she left, he told her clearly. He said he would help her build a future, but she would decide how. Education if she wanted. Skills if she preferred. Support without control. He promised one thing. No matter what she chose, she would never be forced into a life that was not hers. As she returned to the village, she felt torn. Hope and fear walked side by side inside her. The idea of change was tempting but unfamiliar. The idea of staying was safe but heavy. People greeted her differently now. With curiosity, with respect, with jealousy. She felt the shift in their tone, and it made her uncomfortable. That night, she sat alone, thinking deeply for the first time about her future. Not just about tomorrow's meal, but about years ahead. About possibility, she realized something important. Saving the man had not only saved his life, it had opened a door in hers, but stepping through it would require courage. She was not sure she had yet. Outside, the village slept. Inside, she sat awake, standing at the edge of a life she had never imagined. And somewhere far away, the man who should have died watched the city lights and thought about a poor girl who had taught him the true meaning of humanity. The days after the second meeting felt heavy and slow. She continued her routine, but nothing felt the same anymore. Each step on the dusty road felt like a question. Each sunrise felt like a reminder that her life stood at a turning point. People in the village watched her more closely now. Some spoke kindly, others with hidden jealousy. A few acted as if she no longer belonged among them. She felt this change deeply. This place had been her whole world, yet now it felt smaller than before. She tried to ignore the looks and whispers. She focused on work, on carrying water, on cleaning houses, on keeping her hands busy so her thoughts would stay quiet. But at night, when the world slowed down, her mind refused to rest. She thought about the offer: education, safety, a chance to build, something more than survival. She had never allowed herself to dream that far. Fear held her back. What if she failed? What if she left everything she knew and ended up alone in a world that did not understand her? She had seen how people treated the poor when they stepped into places they were not expected to be. One evening, she sat outside her house, watching the sky change color. An elderly woman from the village stopped nearby. She had known her since childhood. She sat down slowly and looked at her with gentle eyes. "You're quiet these days," the woman said. She hesitated, then spoke honestly. She told her everything. About the man. About the meetings. About the offer. About the fear. The old woman listened without interrupting. When she finished, silence settled between them. Then the woman spoke softly. "Life doesn't knock twice," she said. "If a door opens without force, it's not a trap. It's a test of courage." Those words stayed with her long after the woman left. That night she made a decision. It was not sudden. It was not dramatic. It was quiet and firm, like the moment she had knelt beside the man on the road. She decided to accept help, but on her own terms. The next message was sent carefully. She agreed to move forward, slowly. She asked for learning, not gifts. Guidance, not control. The response came quickly, respectfully. Arrangements were made. The day she left the village was harder than she expected. She packed only a small bag. A few clothes, a pair of worn shoes, nothing more. She stood at the door of her house for a long time before locking it. People gathered quietly. Some wished her well. Some said nothing. A few warned her she would forget them. She did not answer. She did not know what the future held. But she knew staying would slowly break her spirit. The journey to the city felt longer this time. She watched familiar land fade into distance. Her chest tightened, but she did not cry. She had learned long ago that tears did not change outcomes. The place she was taken to was simple, clean, and calm. Not luxury, not poverty, just balance. She was given space to breathe, to adjust, to learn. The first days were overwhelming. New routines, new faces, new expectations. She struggled at first. Reading was slow. Writing was harder. Her hands used to physical work trembled when holding a pen, more than once. She wanted to quit, but then she remembered the road, the silence, the choice she had made without knowing who the man was. She reminded herself that courage was not loud. It was steady. The man watched her progress quietly. He did not interfere. He did not push. He made sure she had what she needed and stepped back. That restraint was something she noticed and respected. Weeks passed slowly. She changed. Not her heart, not her kindness, but her confidence. She began to speak more, ask questions, laugh again. She learned that knowledge did not erase who she was. It strengthened her. One day she visited the hospital where the man had been treated. Not out of curiosity, but gratitude. Gratitude that he had lived. Gratitude that life had allowed both of them a second chance. She stood outside the building for a moment, remembering the fear she had felt that night. It seemed like a lifetime ago. When she met the man again, she spoke with more confidence now. She thanked him, not for the help, but for respecting her choices. He smiled and told her the truth. She had helped him. More than she could imagine. He explained how her action had changed the way he saw the world. How he had begun funding small learning centers. How he had shifted focus toward people who worked hard but were never seen. She listened, surprised. She realized then that her kindness had not only changed her own path, it had started something larger. Back in the village, people spoke differently now. Not with jealousy, but with pride. Some children asked about education. Some parents began to believe their lives could be different too. She visited when she could. She never acted superior. She sat on the same ground, ate the same food, spoke the same way. That mattered more than anything. At night, when she lay in her new room, she sometimes missed the quiet of her old house. But she no longer felt trapped by it. She was learning, growing, becoming, and she knew this was not the end. It was preparation. Somewhere ahead, another choice waited. One that would test not just her courage, but her values. And once again, life would ask her to decide who she wanted to be. Change never comes quietly. Even when it begins with kindness, it often grows under pressure. She felt that pressure now. As time passed, more people started noticing her story. Not because she spoke about it, but because others did. Whispers turned into conversations. Conversations turned into interest. Interest slowly turned into attention. She did not like attention. She preferred quiet work. Quiet learning, quiet progress. But the world rarely allows good stories to remain hidden for long. One morning, she was told that someone wanted to speak with her. Not privately. Not quietly. They wanted to share her story publicly. They believed it could inspire others. They believed it could bring hope. The idea made her uncomfortable. She had never seen herself as special. She had only done what felt right in a moment where walking away would have haunted her forever. Turning that moment into a story for others felt strange. Almost wrong. She asked for time to think. That evening, she sat alone by a window, watching the city lights. She thought about the road again, the silence, the fear, the choice. She asked herself an honest question. Had she helped to be seen? The answer was clear no. Then she asked another question. Could sharing help others choose kindness when it mattered? That question stayed longer. She spoke with the man later that night. She trusted him now. Not because of his wealth, but because he listened. She told him her fears. That people might twist the story. That they might forget the message and focus only on the difference between rich and poor. He did not interrupt. When she finished, he spoke slowly. He said something simple. You don't control how people talk. You only control why you speak. Those words settled in her heart. She agreed, but with one condition. The story would not focus on wealth, not on power, not on praise. It would focus on a choice, a human choice made by an ordinary person. The first time she stood before a small audience, her hands shook. She looked down more than she looked up. Her voice was soft. But she spoke honestly. She spoke about fear, about doubt, about how easy it would have been to walk away. She spoke about how helping did not make her brave. It made her human. People listened. Not because she was polished, not because she spoke perfectly, but because she spoke truth. Slowly, the story spread. It reached places she had never imagined. Schools, small communities. People who worked hard and felt unseen. They saw themselves in her not because of what happened after, but because of who she was before. With attention came pressure. Some people questioned her motives. Some accused her of benefiting too much. Others wanted her to speak louder, travel more, become something she was not. She struggled. There were days she wanted to disappear. Days she missed being invisible. Days she wondered if she had made a mistake by stepping forward at all. The man noticed the change. He saw the tiredness in her eyes. He understood what attention could do, because he had lived with it all his life. He reminded her gently that she did not owe anyone more than her truth. He helped create space around her. He made sure she could say no. That support mattered. One afternoon, she returned to the village for a short visit. The road felt familiar again. The air smelled the same. But the people looked at her differently now. With pride, with curiosity, with expectation, she walked to the spot where everything had begun. The road was empty, quiet, ordinary. She stood there for a long time. She realized something important. The moment itself had not changed. Only the meaning people gave it had. She knelt and touched the ground, not in sadness, but in gratitude. Gratitude for being placed there. Gratitude for choosing not to turn away. That evening, she sat with children from the village. They asked her questions. Not about money, not about the city. They asked if helping someone was always scary. She smiled and told them the truth. Yes, she said, but fear doesn't mean stop. It means choose carefully. Those words stayed with them. Back in the city, her life found balance again. Learning continued. Growth continued. She did not rush. She did not chase attention. She focused on becoming steady. The man watched quietly, proud in a way he had never been before. Not proud of saving her. Proud of witnessing strength grow without being forced. He understood something now that no amount of wealth had taught him. True influence does not come from being seen. It comes from helping others see themselves differently. As months passed, her voice became calmer, stronger, not louder. She learned how to protect her peace, how to stay grounded, how to say no without guilt. She was no longer just surviving. She was shaping her life, and yet she knew the journey was not finished. One final chapter still waited. One where the story would come full circle. One where she would understand not just what she had gained, but what she was meant to give. The road that once nearly took a life had given her a purpose, and soon she would step fully into it. Time has a way of settling things. What once felt heavy slowly finds balance, and what once felt impossible begins to feel natural. That was how life became for her. She no longer woke up afraid of the future. She still woke up early, still respected hard work, still valued simple things. But now her days carried purpose beyond survival. She continued learning, slowly, patiently. There were still moments of doubt, moments when old fears returned, but she no longer let them decide for her. She had learned that growth was not about changing who you were, but about trusting who you had always been. People continued to tell her story, but she learned how to guide it. She spoke when it mattered and stayed silent when it didn't. She never allowed herself to become a symbol placed above others. She reminded people again and again that she was ordinary, and that was the point. One afternoon, she was invited to speak at a small gathering near the countryside. Nothing grand, no bright lights, just people sitting close, listening carefully. She stood there calmly, not nervous this time. She spoke about the road. She described the silence, the fear, the moment she almost walked away. She told them how heavy the choice felt and how light the heart felt after making it. She did not speak about rewards or change. She spoke about responsibility to one another when she finished. The room was quiet. Then someone asked a question that stayed with her. If you knew who he was that day, the person asked, would you have helped differently? She smiled gently. No, she said. If I knew, it wouldn't have been the same. That answer carried more truth than she realized. Later that evening, she walked alone, thinking about how far she had come. She thought about the version of herself who had stood barefoot on a dusty road, unsure, afraid, but unwilling to turn away. She felt proud of that girl, not because she saved a life, but because she listened to her conscience when it mattered most. The man watched from a distance now, no longer guiding, no longer stepping in. He had learned that support did not mean control. He had already given what mattered most, opportunity without pressure. He continued his work quietly. Funding education, supporting healthcare in small areas, creating systems that gave people chances without making them feel small. Whenever someone asked him why he had changed his focus, he gave a simple answer. Someone reminded me what being human looks like. They never shared stages. They never created a public image together. Their connection remained respectful and distant, rooted in one moment and a shared understanding. 1 year later, she returned to the road where everything had begun. The grass had grown taller. The stones had shifted. Life had moved on. She stood there for a long time, listening to the wind. There was no drama in the place. No sign of what had happened that made her smile. Some moments are not meant to be marked. They are meant to be remembered quietly. She sat down on the ground and closed her eyes, not in sadness. In gratitude for courage she didn't know she had. Gratitude for a life that allowed second chances. As she stood up to leave, a child walked past her with a parent. The child tripped and fell. Without thinking, she stepped forward and helped the child up. Brushing dust from their clothes, the parent thanked her. She nodded and walked away. No one noticed, and that felt right. Her life did not turn into a fairy tale. There were still struggles, still challenges, still days when things felt heavy, but now she faced them with strength, not fear. She built a life slowly, honestly. On her own terms, she became someone children could look up to, not because she was rich or famous, but because she stayed kind when she didn't have to, and the world did not change overnight. But one life had changed another, and that change had quietly spread somewhere. Someone would stand on a road one day, faced with a choice, and maybe, because of a story they once heard, they would stop. That would be enough, because sometimes the greatest impact comes from moments no one sees, and sometimes the poorest hands carry the richest humanity. The end.